That makes a lot of sense. Now, from a hydration and race support point of view, how the race is positioned. Of course, we know that it's a race that is known for what it's built over a period of decades and centuries, and it is the best race in the world, no doubt. But what should people expect on the way from a fueling, hydration point of view, etc.?
Well, there's information in the marathon guide to tell you, and there's a water stop at every mile, and they provide both water and Gatorade. And I think they've changed it from time to time, but usually they put water on one side of the road and the Gatorade on the other side. And the Gatorade they provide is what's called an endurance formula, which is double the sodium of what you would buy at the store typically. So it's a higher sodium content. And they started doing that. I think Gatorade actually made it because one runner a number of years ago died. She was running the Boston Marathon. It was a warm day, very hot, and she suffered from hyponatremia, which is not from drinking. The mistake, the misunderstanding is that it was assumed that she simply drank too much water. But the reality was she simply did not take enough sodium in. And so that depleted her sodium, her electrolyte levels. And if that gets too extreme, then the body starts to shut down, and it's not able to actually utilize and absorb the water into the cells that we're drinking. So you can be running with a stomach full of water, and you can feel it sloshing around. But if your sodium levels are too low, then the body's not absorbing it, and it's not getting back into the bloodstream and into the muscles as necessary. So dehydration happens 25 to 1 relative to an extreme case of hyponatremia. So again, the secret is not to limit your fluid intake. It's just to make sure you're getting ample sodium. And if it was a particularly warm day, if it turns out to warm up and be 65 degrees and sunny, that's enough where you're going to have to slow your pace down, number one. And if somebody was a heavy sweater and they're out there for 4.5 hours and they sweat, say, a gallon of sweat, the amount of sodium in that sweat is probably still double what you will replenish in this endurance formula Gatorade. If you drank a gallon of Gatorade, which you probably won't do. You'll drink half Gatorade and half water. So now you're really only replenishing maybe 25% or 30% of the sodium that you've lost. Now, for some people, you're able to get away with that because the body stores an ample supply of sodium typically. But some people, maybe they're going into a little bit low to begin with, and those individuals could then really run into problems. If they don't suffer true hyponatremia and kind of collapse on the course, it will simply significantly degrade your ability to run, and you end up walking and you're just exhausted. So salt supplementation is a good thing, and the salt sticks, you can get salt tablets or salt sticks commercially. They're readily available now. And most people tolerate them. I've never heard of anybody having problems, even if you've never used them. But if you're thinking of doing that, probably now is a good time. Do it on your last couple training runs. Pop a couple of them. Make sure your stomach doesn't reject them, and then carry a few of them in the race itself. When you start to fade, people think it's a lack of fluid or a lack of sugar, and quite often it's really the salt levels are starting to get a little bit low. So, triathletes who are out there for longer periods of time and ultra runners, they're very keenly aware of the sodium replacement requirements. And marathoners, to some degree are, but I think it's not emphasized to the degree that it could be from a beneficial standpoint. So that's something else, excuse me, to consider.